This channel is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence before making any investment decisions. Hi, this is Joe Rabil with Invest Like a Pro. I'm going to give you a stock market update as of Thursday's close for Friday morning. Let's go ahead and get into this. We've got some action taking place in the market. Let's see how important it really is. So I want to go through the market conditions real quick, and I'm going to do the trend and momentum in a minute when I get into the individual time frames. If we look at what's taken place here, there was no change this week for the sentiment. So we had a pretty big jump in the number of bulls. The bears dropped off a little bit. So the difference between the two, there's 24% more bulls than bears using the investors' intelligence numbers, bulls minus the bears. And I've used that for a long time. And we're getting up into where you'd almost consider this to be kind of like a trading top area, like to be on the lookout for a trading top. Now, this is a secondary indicator. It's not necessarily a timing indicator. It gives me the backdrop of what to be on the lookout for. Same with the overbought, oversold oscillator. If we look at where this is at 68.82. So that's a 5 RSI for the S&P chart, and we've gotten close to this overbought. I mean, I left it at neutral. You could really put it right here. It would actually be right here. And if we push up any more in these two, we're going to have both of these essentially as a negative. All right. Now, why is that important? Well, this is the big fly in the ointment right now. You notice the improvement that's taking place in the trends. I'll show you why I categorize these as positive now for weekly and daily. But the fact is that we've got these positive and these positive. We just don't have the confirmation yet on a momentum basis. If we have this like this, then these going negative is telling us that we want to be on the lookout for a pullback to be a buyer. But when we don't have momentum, we've got to be a little bit more careful. The pullback could be harsher if we don't have really strong momentum behind it. So I'm watching the momentum really closely right now as we try and push higher. Now, in terms of the volatility, as I've been saying for a while, we're below a declining moving average for both the daily and the weekly average true range. The red line is the average true range. The blue line is the moving average, an 18 MA moving average of the average true range. And when the average true range is dropping, that's telling us that the size of these bars are smaller. They're shrinking, okay? And that's the same thing that's going on the weekly. And really, you can kind of see, if you look at the size of these bars, and notice how these were pretty big, but then since that time, they've really kind of gotten smaller. On average, you can see they're really dropping off. So normally, when volatility is bigger, we get distribution taking place. Like if there's distribution, this line would actually be going up. There would be more volatility, not less. So it's another part of the market conditions. All of these play a role. They're not an end all be all, not one of them, but it gives us a pretty good backdrop. So I kind of look at it like this. This is sort of like the dividing line right here. These I would consider to be more secondary indicators. These are our primary indicators. We want to look at the trend and momentum, and then we want to look at the backdrop. What kind of volatility position is the market in? What type of overbought, oversold condition are we in relative to the sentiment? Obviously, the best case scenario is when all of these are positive, and then we get an oversold reading, which would be here, and a sentiment number that's low, right? If we have all that, then that's like a home run fat pitch. You're getting just an absolute ball right down the middle to take a swing at. We're not really in that position right now because we don't have the momentum. It's not really setting up that way. So I wanted to make sure I covered that, and let's go ahead and get into the individual time frames. And we're still caught between the 18 and the 40 month moving average, but we're bumping up against this 18. You see the 18 month is really, we're right at it. And how it closes the week is probably pretty relevant. If we can close above that moving average and get back above this prior peak, which is essentially what's showing up on this weekly chart. So let's go into the weekly, because this is really where we get into the nook and crannies of what's going on. So why did I change the trend to positive? Well, as I've stated in my book and what I've done in my course, we have a price that's above the 18, which is above the 40, and both lines are rising now. Okay? I mean, there's no other way to define this when I look at it this way. We have to call this positive. Now, when we go by the price action, typically the price action can tend to be a little bit quicker, but sometimes it takes a little bit longer for price to confirm. This would be the 3. A lot of times what I really like to see is the 3 happens at the same time these lines start rising, and then we have confirmation in price and the moving averages. I hope you guys are following what I'm saying. So the price does its own thing, but if it goes up a little bit more, it's going to confirm what we're seeing on the daily moving averages. Now, I do want to point this out. Look, this is not powerful, but these lines are rising. They are qualifying. I mean, we don't have that parallel look like that, really strong parallel. They are parallel, but they're not really strongly rising at this point. But we have to give them the credit that they are positive right now, and the MACD, both of the MACD lines are above. So I'm going to give this time frame a positive, but I'm going to put the momentum at neutral. Now, I know the volume was really good. I mentioned this at the low, right, when we had this strong volume off of this 3,800 area. But it's not that great right now. And but this is here and this is here. So this is actually positive. But if green DI were breaking out above 25, I'd probably put the momentum as positive in this time frame. We don't have that. All right. Now, let's go to the daily chart. So if we look at what this has done, it's had its own. So first of all, you see we have a 1, 2, 3 to the upside, but we also have a 1, 2, 3 to the downside. This could just be a test of this high, and then we could reverse back down. Because the momentum isn't all that great, we have to still keep that open as a possibility. But we're at the upper end of this range. We're showing pretty good strength. We're not really reacting poorly to bad news. It seems to me like it's been, that it wants to move up. But we're up 5 weeks in a row now, just about, and we're about to go through earnings season. So, you got to be careful here still. It's not an absolute, but we have a 1, 2, 3 going up. And if we break above that in a, what I would consider to be a confirming fashion, then I would say that's pretty bullish. If we fail here and turn back down, then you're actually turning a 1, 2, 3 to the downside on the weekly. And I would assume that we'll start to see a reversal taking place here and red would kick in. So we do have to give that credit, but let's go to the daily. The daily already did its 1, 2, 3. So this was a part of my weekly service on Mondays. I'd show the weekly and the daily, and I go into this in a little bit more detail. So this broke the trend line and came back and tested, and I put up the fib grid so you can see it came back over the 50% retracement. So that was a good enough retracement from this low to this high. We came back over 50%. That definitely qualifies as a 2. All right, and then we came back up and took out the 3. So this trend is up, and when that happens, we sort of assume we're going to go back up and test this high or test the next time frame's resistance, which is up here at this prior peak. That's what we're doing. We also created a higher pivot low. Now, the quality of the higher pivot low, today was actually pretty good evidence. The volume wasn't all that great. It was less than average. And what's a fly in the ointment right now is that we made a move to the upside, and if we really created a pivot low and we're breaking out above this high like this, where's green DI? Why isn't green DI doing the same thing? So we need to watch this over the next few days. We really ought to see this improve. Now, you don't know whether this is going to confirm. So you kind of want to play the higher pivot low because of the pinch play. So you play it as a trade, right? And then if this confirms, then you're going to get this to cross above 25. Then you could play for a bigger move. So we got to kind of give this credit for a couple more days and see how this reacts up this prior high. But right now I'm sort of treating it as a trading play. Now, one other thing I want to mention, I want to show you the cues. So look at the difference between what's going on here. Now, this is in the same boat on the monthly chart, although I do like the look of the MACD a little bit better turning at the 0 line. This is very similar where we've got this. Green DI is a little bit stronger here, but look at the daily. The daily showed strength here and then pulled back, No strength on the sell side, zero line reversal. Now we move up. Look at the strength of this move. This is a much better play. I mean, if we get a pullback here, make a little higher pivot low, I would say that's playable for a trade. Because this is declining, I'm only going to call it a trade. I could play off weekly continuation up to the next resistance, off the daily, using the hourly, and we've got kind of a pretty decent play that you look back and say, you know what, this meets all the criteria that I look for. It's trying to get through resistance. It does have some improvement on a momentum basis based on the zero line reversal potential. This has crossed above the zero line. This is showing pretty good momentum. We already came back and kind of tested this. We actually had a little undercut here, and now it's moving up. If this can make a higher pivot low on this time frame, pull back and hold, I'd have to give this credit again for a trade. So those are the kinds of things I think you want to be on the lookout for, and then play it in a way that if it's really if you scale out on the way up, then you can play it and catch a bigger move if it turns into that. I mean, I don't know that whether that's going to happen or not. I wouldn't plan on it. But it could. And so you don't want to just assume that it's just going to go up for 2 days and fall apart. So that's kind of how I'd look at it. Now, if we get bad news in the morning, Friday morning before the market opens, for all I know, this could be down and we won't make our pivot low here. We won't make a higher pivot low. We'll come back and turn back into a range again. But I think if this sets up, that's probably a pretty decent little play. I kind of like it a little bit better than the spider. All right, that's the update for the week. Go ahead and let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.